I've been involved in the Warhammer world for
40,000 years.
40,000 years. Oh, well, longer, depending how you look at it. But since I was probably 10.
Nice.
Yeah, so a long time.
Warhammer fans, brace yourselves. Henry Cavill just dropped a bombshell that's shaking the very foundations of 40k lore. In a recent interview, Cavill confirmed what many had speculated but few thought possible. Female Custodes are officially out of the picture. That's right, Games Workshop has quietly walked back their controversial decision to introduce female Custodes, and Cavill didn't hold back when asked about it. Now, for those new to the chaos, here's why this is a big deal. The Adeptus Custodes, those golden armored, genetically engineered warriors, aren't just any faction in Warhammer. They're the Emperor's personal guard, the elite of the elite. For decades, they've been portrayed as exclusively male in the lore. So when Games Workshop hinted at adding female Custodes earlier this year, it set off a firestorm in the community. The backlash was intense. Fans flooded forums, launched campaigns, and even boycotted merchandise tied to the change. But now Cavill has stepped into the spotlight, confirming that the franchise is sticking to its guns, or rather, its lore. Games Workshop, with Cavill's clear approval, has re-established the Custodes as male only, citing a commitment to preserving Warhammer's authenticity. And while some fans are celebrating this return to tradition, others are asking, was this about honoring the lore, or giving in to purist pressure? To understand why this decision matters, we need to look back at what sparked the uproar in the first place.
I'm now just dreaming, so I'd have to speak to the guys at Games Workshop and see what happens.
The Custodes have always been a big deal in Warhammer 40k lore. These golden warriors are the Emperor's personal bodyguards, designed to be the protectors of humanity. Unlike Space Marines, who are made from regular humans, the Custodes are built from the ground up using the Emperor's own DNA. They're immortal, unbeatable in battle, and totally dedicated to keeping the Emperor safe no matter what. Traditionally, the Custodes have been depicted as male. This wasn't just a random choice, it's part of the lore. They're seen as the ultimate version of what the Emperor envisioned for humanity's protectors. For years, this detail went unchallenged, and fans really embraced that consistency and tradition. But earlier this year, Games Workshop dropped a bombshell by hinting at a big change. They announced plans to introduce female Custodes, saying it was all about expanding the universe. Social media went wild with debates, campaigns, and calls to keep Warhammer's identity intact. Some even accused Games Workshop of just trying to follow modern trends instead of sticking to good storytelling. Retailers felt the heat too. Merchandise related to the female Custodes was just sitting there, with some stores even pulling the products off the shelves. While all this was going down online, Henry Cavill was quietly making his thoughts known behind the scenes.
Geekiest thing would have to be my Warhammer stuff.
We're talking Games Workshop, aren't we? Yeah.
Yeah. It's that took me a while to kind of confess to openly and publicly.
Henry Cavill is not just the star of the new Warhammer live-action series, he's a huge fan of gaming culture. For him, this isn't just another role, it's something he really cares about. Cavill has a solid track record of standing up for the stories he's part of. Just look at his time on The Witcher. When there were disagreements about sticking to the source material, he made his feelings known, even if it caused some drama. Fans appreciated his dedication, and many think he brought that same passion to the Warhammer talks. While Cavill hasn't openly talked about his role in the recent decisions, insiders say he was a big advocate for keeping the lore. It's easy to picture him pushing for Games Workshop to stick to the original portrayal of the Custodes. With fans getting more vocal and the pressure on, Games Workshop finally made a change. In the Ultimate Guide to Warhammer 40k, written by Warhammer pros Guy Haley and Gav Thorpe, they confirmed that the Custodes are all male, using he and him throughout. This was a clear nod back to the original lore. So what caused this shift? For starters, the backlash wasn't just talk. It hit them in the wallet. Sales of merchandise related to the female Custodes dropped, sending a strong message. Fans weren't just grumbling online, they were showing their discontent by not buying stuff. Games Workshop also couldn't risk losing its core fans. By sticking to the established lore, they're not just fixing a mistake, they're making it clear what Warhammer is all about. Fans might debate whether this was a creative choice or a business move, but one thing's for sure. The Custodes are back to their roots, and the franchise is taking steps to avoid any more division. And let's not forget about Amazon, the studio behind the upcoming Warhammer series. They're definitely a key player in all of this.
Games Workshop is up heavily this morning. The FTSE 250 company has signed a deal with Amazon to make films and TV programs based on Games Workshop's fantasy Warhammer franchise. Let's take a look at the share price chart, because this really says it all. These are daily candles, and you can see quite clearly this rise on the right-hand side here. No value's been attributed to the deal, which has been confirmed that Amazon will embark on certain developmental activities, according to the statement, such as holding talks with writers. Games Workshop made no changes to its financial forecast for the period to the end of May 2023 as a result of this, but it said the deal with Amazon was subject to contracts being agreed and that a further announcement will be made in due course. Now, for those that are very much into this, this is a really big deal. And the stock here has now risen, as you can see here, to levels not seen since the 9th of February this year.
Amazon's involvement in the Warhammer universe is a game changer, both for fans and the franchise's direction. When Amazon acquired the rights to develop a live-action Warhammer series, it wasn't just a typical business move. It signaled their intent to break into a highly niche market. Their partnership with Henry Cavill only amplified the stakes. Cavill's presence brought credibility to the project, but it also raised expectations. Amazon knows the consequences of misjudging a fan base. Take the Rings of Power, for example. Despite its massive budget and stunning visuals, the series faced backlash for straying too far from Tolkien's established lore. Critics argued that the show prioritized spectacle over substance, alienating longtime fans. While it wasn't a complete failure, the mixed reception was a wake-up call for Amazon. Faithful adaptations matter, especially when dealing with deeply rooted phantoms. With Warhammer, Amazon seems to be treading carefully. Their collaboration with Cavill suggests a deliberate shift in strategy. It's no coincidence that the decision to reaffirm the Custodes' male-only status came at a time when Amazon's series was in development. The last thing the studio wants is a repeat of the Rings of Power, especially when the Warhammer fanbase is even more vocal and protective of their lore. This approach also aligns with Amazon's broader goals. By sticking to established lore, they're ensuring that the Warhammer series appeals to its core audience, who are critical to its success. Cavill's involvement as both a star and a producer ensures that the series stays true to the source material, which in turn helps maintain trust within the community. The decision may have been made, but the fan base remains split on what this means for the future of Warhammer. On one side are the traditionalists, who are celebrating this return to canon as a victory for Warhammer's identity. A person commented saying, "This is exactly what Warhammer needed. Stick to the original lore. The Custodes are supposed to be a reflection of the Emperor's ideal. This change was never necessary." Another one added, "I've been a fan of Warhammer for years, and I'm glad they're respecting the source material. We don't need unnecessary changes to appease trends." For these fans, preserving the original vision is more than just about the story, it's about respecting decades of world building. On the other side are people who see the decision as a missed opportunity. A user stated, "I get that sticking to lore is important, but why shut down opportunities for diverse female Custodes could have brought so much to the table?"
How could Amazon ruin a Warhammer 40,000 movie?
So I think there's many ways this can happen. One of the ways that it could happen is, dare I say it, have Zack Snyder direct it.
Yeah, because he directed
Rebel Moon.
And that was trash, dude.
This, from what I heard, was originally supposed to be a Warhammer 40k inspired movie. And you can see the inspiration if you watch Rebel Moon.
Kind of, but not really.
I mean, they got power swords. They almost have like bolt pistols and stuff like that. And then the one thing that Zack Snyder always does is slow-mo, and I think that kind of ruins the action sequences. Because it's like, okay, yeah, it's cool, but it's like, do I really have to stare at this person screaming, jumping for 30 seconds? It's like, nah, just keep going with the action.
If there's one thing history shows us, it's that sticking to the heart of a story can really make or break a franchise. When it comes to adapting fan-favorite franchises, there are plenty of examples of what happens when creators go off the rails. Look at The Witcher. The first season got a lot of love for staying true to Andrzej Sapkowski's books, but later seasons didn't appreciate. Even Henry Cavill spoke up about these changes, and when he left the show, it left everyone wondering what would happen next. Then there's the Rings of Power. The show tried to capture the epic feel of Tolkien's world, but its creative choices got mixed reviews. Fans felt like it missed the mark on the depth and authenticity that made the original stories so special. The takeaway? If you stray too far from the source material, you risk losing the very fans you want to win over. For Warhammer, sticking to the lore could help dodge these issues. By keeping the Custodes true to their traditional portrayal, Games Workshop and Amazon are showing they care about the franchise's roots. This move not only keeps longtime fans happy, but also sets a solid tone for the live-action series, making sure it stays true to. And let's not forget about Henry Cavill. He's not just another Hollywood actor, he's a real fan who gets the ins and outs of Warhammer 40k's lore. He's been open about his love for the game, from painting miniatures to chatting about strategies in interviews. This passion makes him more than just an actor, he's a link between the franchise and its community. Cavill's commitment to Warhammer shows in how he's getting involved with the live-action adaptation. Unlike other celebrity-led projects, he's not trying to dumb things down for a wider audience. Instead, he wants to bring the rich universe of Warhammer to life while staying true to its roots. You can already see his influence in the recent push for lore accuracy, like sticking to the Custodes' traditional portrayal, but Cavill's role might go even deeper. As both a producer and the lead actor, he can really shape the series to meet fan expectations. His experience with The Witcher, where he had some disagreements with the showrunners over changes to the source material, shows he's not afraid to fight for authenticity. Fans trust him to keep Warhammer's integrity intact, and his involvement could be key in making sure the franchise stays true to what it is. So what's in store for Warhammer's future, and how are Cavill and Amazon going to tackle the challenges ahead? The journey for Warhammer 40k is packed with both opportunities and hurdles. The whole Custodes controversy has shown just how tricky it is to balance sticking to tradition while also evolving, and that's something the live-action adaptation really needs to nail. One big challenge will be making Warhammer appealing to a wider audience without pushing away the die-hard fans. The franchise has always been a bit niche, with its deep lore and complex gameplay. To blow it up into a global hit, they'll need to tell stories that honor the original while still being easy for newcomers to get into. But what do you guys think about this whole situation? Let me know your thoughts in the comments.